Today's video is sponsored by Uppercase Designs. What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me, where today we're going to go ahead and create this blue moon design. Now, as always, there's links to everything that you're going to need for today's design. There is a brush and a palette and a canvas size, and all of which are available completely free over on my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description down below to the post where you can grab all of the requirements. As always, when you're done with today's design, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to post them. And if you want even more tutorials from me, you can come and join me over on Patreon, where I've been posting 3 exclusive tutorials to my patrons now for many years. And the catalogue sits at over 100 exclusive Patreon tutorials with 3 added every single month. It just continues to grow. So make sure to come and join in with all the fun over on Patreon, again using the link in the description down below. Enjoy today's design, and let's get started. But before we do, I want to introduce you to the Nimble Grip 2. Not only does this grip provide 2 varying swooped edges for comfort when writing or drawing, but this new version has also been engineered around the Apple Pencil's native features. It now boasts a new design that includes a flat edge, which allows you to use the Apple Pencil's native features, such as the double tap feature where you can double tap to switch between an app's tools, for example. And my favorite part, you can now charge the Apple Pencil without having to take off the grip. How awesome is that? Now, if you want to check out the Nimble Grip 2 for yourself, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below where you can find all the different colors that it comes in. And with that said, let's get back to the video. So once you've created your canvas, we're going to go ahead first of all and change our background color here to the color here at the top of the 3rd column. What we'll then do, we'll hit done, and we'll go up to our actions, we'll go to the canvas tab, and we'll turn on a drawing guide. We'll edit that drawing guide and we'll use the 2D grid, except we're just going to drag this over to the right hand side here just to select white so we can just about see it on the screen. And we're going to set the grid size to 500 or whatever is a quarter of your canvas size, and hit done when you're ready. We can now create our moon shape. So using the empty layer here, we'll make sure we're on that. We'll go to our colors. We'll grab the color here in the bottom left of the palette. If we go to our brush and we use just the standard old monoline brush, it does not matter what your brush size is, as long as you draw a circle, and when you get to the end you hold, and then pop one finger on the screen to make sure it's a nice perfect circle. Now just make it a little bit larger than you need to for a minute. Drag and drop the color in. But if we go to our cursor, I'm going to tap on the node in the top right, making sure I'm on uniform. I'm just going to change this now to the dimensions of 892. Just so it's the same as my practices, and then I'll drag it into the middle, and again making sure it's nice and central. You can use snapping in the bottom left so that you get the 2 orange lines like so, to let you know you are perfectly centered in the middle of your canvas. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. Let's add some moon texture, so we'll go ahead and create a new layer. We'll tap on it and we'll clipping mask it to the moon, and we'll go ahead then and go to our brush. Let's go to the option of textures, so we'll grab textures and Dove Lake. Got the brush size set to about 8%. We'll change our color. We'll go ahead and we will grab this color here, so the middle of the 1st column. And we're going to go ahead and just draw in some texture for our moon. You do not need to necessarily sort of make this look like the moon itself. The tree will cover a boatload of it anyway. I wouldn't stress too much about it, but by all means, if you want to sort of replicate the real world moon, that's totally up to you. Go right up to the edges, add some dark tones here and there, and a couple of really light patches in there just to make sure there's some texture. And you're just laying out the sort of foundation of your darkest areas. And maybe a little bit on the top there. We'll then go ahead and go to our layers. Now you can do it on the same layer if you wish. So we can go to our colors. We can grab the top color here, the top left of the palette. And we're going to go ahead and introduce some light tones sort of over the top of those. Let's maybe bring the brush size down to 6%. A little bit around this top edge. A little bit down this bottom edge here, and then a couple more patches. Now what we're trying to almost do at this point is look for some of the gaps, just to triple check we can add in some of the lighter tones here and there to add in some texture. So again, we're not trying to make this too serious, we're not trying to replicate the moon, but again, by all means, please do so if that's what you want to do for your particular design. And I'll bring some of that round here as well. And I'll put a very, very light sort of wiggle of color in there too. We'll then go to our colors. We'll grab the color here at the bottom of the 2nd column. And it's going to be your very darkest tones. So we're just going to wiggle this around up in here. I'm going to wiggle some through this gap. Bring that right up towards the edge. I'll definitely introduce some in this bottom area here. A nice dark patch in the middle will look good. And tap a few times here and there as well, just to add like the sort of crevices and dark spots. Bring your brush size down to like a 3% if you want to, and really start to kind of detail it here and there with more patches and this, that, and the other. Just little random areas of almost detail, but again, not too specific. Nice and easy, nice and loose. We'll then go ahead and add some bright tones to this. So we're going to go ahead and go to our layers. We'll create a new layer. We will tap on it and we will clipping mask it, and we'll change the blend mode from normal to add. We'll go to our colors. We'll grab the top left color again in the palette, this one here. And we're going to go ahead and add in some of our brightest spots now on our moon. So we'll go up this sort of top left edge a little bit, adding in a bright spot here and there. Maybe bring the brush size down to about 6%, and a little wiggle here and there to add in some brighter tones. Maybe a little wiggle in the middle here, and then a little bit around the edge. Don't want to press too firm. We don't want to sort of blow it out to white, although it will if it overlaps some of the sort of brighter tones from before. And maybe a couple of little random patches. And again, just like before, maybe bring the brush size down to like a 3% and add in some sort of bright spots here and there in the moon. Some, again, small areas of detail. There we go. That is as simple as it needs to be. Then what we can do is we can go ahead and go to our layers. We can turn off our background color. We can swipe down with 3 fingers and go to copy all. And we can swipe down with 3 fingers and go to paste. It will then paste in your entire design on a new layer, and we'll drag it underneath our moon for a minute, and we'll turn on our background again. We will go ahead and swipe this to the left and duplicate it, so we've got 2 underneath. The bottom one out of the 2, you're going to want to go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, swipe from left to right, and let's add in a round about a sort of 20 to 25% Gaussian blur. We don't want to make this too big because we don't want to reveal too much of the tree. So I'm going to go up to around about sort of 19 to 20% there. Then I'm going to go to my layers and go to the one above it, tap on that and change it to the option of add. Go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and we'll add in a nice tight glow to the moon as well. So that can go up to around about sort of 10% and it still fits nicely. And we'll tap on our adjustments when we're done. And then we can move on to our tree. So that's your moon all done. By all means, pinch them together if you need to, but we're going to go right to the top of our layers and create a new one. We'll go to our colors and grab the same as the background color, this color here, the top of the 3rd column. Your brush wants to be set to the option of calligraphy, and we're going to use the script brush. I've got the size set to 32% and maximum opacity, and we just want to draw in our tree. Now, every single time you do this, make sure you go way beyond the tree, the moon. You want to make sure that you sort of start up here. I'm pressing as we speak, and I'm drawing in like a bit of a trunk now. And I'm going to go all the way down towards the bottom because we don't want to see the end of some of these lines here that are being shown by the glow. And then from there, you can go ahead and sort of create branches that sort of run out and just make their way all the way across and all the way off to the edge. And then use this sort of main one here. I've got mine on a little bit of a slant on purpose. I want to have that little bit of an angle to it. I want it to be quite interesting to look at, not quite so boring and sort of straight upright. And then we're going to continue just to create sort of the main branch avenues here. So we'll just let this one run all the way off to the edge. Make sure it gets nice and thin, obviously, towards the end. And that's why we're using the script brush. We'll go along here, let this one run off to the right-hand side too. We can bring a branch in here and then let that kind of run across. Make it show that the growth of that branch made its way all the way across. And in a minute, you can sort of bulk out your trunk a little bit more if you need to. So don't sort of stress about the sort of trunk too much at the beginning. And once you've got a few branches in here that you really like the look of, that are sort of giving you enough avenues to run all the way off to the edge of the screen or the edge of our moon, you can then start to think about sort of changing it up and adding in additional sort of branch avenues. So branching off of those branches. So here, for example, we'll run across here and we'll let this one just go all the way off to the end, and then we'll start to split them. So as you get closer towards the ends, you can just allow them to split. Make sure you run branches over the top of other branches. To me, I've always said this with trees, if you can start to allow yourself to not sort of try to keep things too sort of organized, you know, a branch here and the one above it shouldn't come too close to it. No. Let them just run all the way over the top of each other. You know, when we look at a tree, it does not have that kind of sort of structure to it. From our angle, wherever you're stood looking at a tree, all the branches overlap each other, especially the ones that are right in front of you. You know, those ones, they have sort of, they're facing you, but they overlap the ones sat in behind. So there's lots and lots of sort of dimension to your tree. I'm going to come all the way down here as well. I'm going to make sure that towards the top here, I have another branch maybe run off here as well. and maybe another one off the top end as well. Let's see if we can introduce one, say here. Lovely. And again, making sure you go really far every single time. Maybe you can introduce like a small shoot here of a branch that's not too far from sort of the tree and it only ends there. That's cool. So you can have these smaller ones in here. And to be honest with you, you don't really need to sort of really stress over this much at all, because as long as you sort of just keep adding and adding and adding, there's so much context and detail that as long as you sort of, again, abide by the sort of straightforward rules that the things sort of should get a little bit thinner towards the end and be a nice and chunky in the middle down your sort of tree, you'll be good to go. I'm just going down the tree once more, just adding in some bumps and lumps, and then where these sort of tree branches come into play, I want to just add some character to them, add some little wiggles here and there, little tremors along the edge of the branch. This one over here definitely needs thickening up a little bit. It's a little bit too thin. And you can see we've got that nice curved aesthetic to the tree. We'll run a couple more along there. But ultimately, we're going for something a lot like this. In the middle here, I'm going to start to run some branches off of here and then see if I can get some to run all the way up to the very edge of our canvas. And then maybe even one that runs back across like that. You know, be nice and brave. And they don't always have to. Maybe this one ends just there. That's perfectly fine. And another one into there. And we're just trying to build up this tree-like design. So have some fun really laying this out. And once you've got to a sort of a similar point like this, we can then start to add in all the leaves. Now for the leaves, I've got a variation on the Aurora brush. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers. We'll create a new layer. We'll go ahead and we'll go to our brush library. Now for you, it will be under imported. For me, I believe it's under artistic and it's the Aurora edited brush. The opacity needs to be max and the size is set to 3%. And all we're going to do is start on the outside and kind of wiggle your pen, draw up and down a branch. That's all you need to do. So I'm just going to position this in the center and I'm just going to continue to go up and down some of those branches that I can see. And what we're aiming for a little bit more density on the outer edges, not so much in the middle. So we're just going to keep going around the edge. Now, I know the opacity is set to 100%, but it doesn't quite do enough at the minute. So what we'll do is we'll duplicate this in a second. And we're going along the branches. That's all I'm doing. Along the branches, varying pressure so I get some different weights of the Aurora brush, because the brush itself has pressure sensitivity. So if you press a little bit heavier, you get some bigger spots. If you press a little bit lighter, you'll get some nice small ones in there. And that's what we want. We want some nice variations in there, much like our branches. Just wiggling my pen. You can see I'm literally just squiggling my pen. Nothing too detailed, nothing too intricate. We'll run some along the edges of some of these branches down here. And then the odd tiny little sort of shoot of leaves here and there towards the middle will look good. But we want to, again, focus it much more towards those outer edges. Again, trying to sort of have a consideration for going a little bit beyond the circle there of our moon. I'm just going to add some more in here. And then sort of closer to the tree, you may want to sort of tap a few times just to add in some small little leaves here and there. Little, I sounded really British then. Little leaves. Tapping away. Even though I am British. Tapping away. Now I'm tapping, I'm getting a lot of the smaller little stamps of the Aurora. So just tapping away just to add in some very simple small shapes, but trying to build out the density of the tree. And I'm going to go along the outside edge with some firm pressure now and try and bulk out the very edge. Not overly heavy, but just enough that we really do start to see like a difference between the outside edge and the center of our tree. And that is looking very, very cool. Now, once you've laid out sort of your leaves like so, you can then go ahead and swipe the layer to the left and duplicate it, so then you get a much more solid color to it. At this point, you can then go ahead and merge those two layers together. And if you need to, you can always hold down on your eraser to switch it to the same brush, so the Aurora edited here. Maybe set the brush size to 3%, and if you need to, maybe get in there and sort of break it down a tiny bit. Going back over with the eraser is also really good as well, because you get some different shapes left over by the eraser. So I'm just trying to see, although I want some, good density towards the edges, I don't mind if there's a gap here and there, because again, a tree's not 100% dense all the way around. There may be gaps, and I like that. It makes it a little bit more realistic. I can get rid of a few here and there. The eraser sometimes can give you some really awesome looks to any brush that you use. So I've just broken that down a tiny bit. The other thing we'll then go ahead and do is add some stars. So we'll create a new layer, drag it all the way to the very bottom. We'll go to our colors. Now you can mix and match a few colors. For example, I'm going to use this blue and this one here. So I'll go ahead and grab this blue first of all, the bottom left of the palette. We'll go to our brush. We'll go to the option of luminance. For you, it'll say luminance. And we're going to use the light pen. I always use the light pen at the minute for stars, 100% size. And we're just going to tap away, adding in some varying sizes to some stars. These ones will be really blue, so it's up to you if you want to kind of have that aesthetic. I'm not going to go too far beyond the edge of the kind of tree here. I don't want to add in too many stars that drift too far away from this sort of nice center point of our design. So I'm going to add in a few, and then in a minute, or now, I'm going to switch it to the top of the first column. These ones will be a little bit more white, and you can tap really lightly to get some very, very, very small stars, and you can press really firm where necessary to add in some nice bright, big white stars. So just have some fun laying this out, having a really cool, very minimalistic design this week. So I hope you enjoyed this week's tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations over on Instagram or anywhere else that you decide to share your work after. Lovely stuff. And there's only one other thing to add in. If we go up to our actions first of all, let's turn off our drawing guide because we're done with that. We're going to go ahead and go to our tree here at the top. And once you're happy with your tree, pinch the two together. Swipe the tree to the left and duplicate it. We're going to go ahead and go to the bottom one out the two. We're going to tap on it, alpha lock it. Go to your colors and grab the blue here at the bottom left of the palette. Go back to the layer, tap on it and fill it. Then tap on it and turn off the alpha lock. Now for a minute you're going to see the outline of everything. Don't stress about that for a moment. We're going to go ahead and change the blend mode from normal to the option of add. We're going to go to our adjustments. We're going to go to perspective blur, and it will drop this dot in the center because we've already aligned our moon there. If we swipe from left to right and increase the perspective blur, you'll get this kind of glowy effect like this. Now we're not interested so much in the sort of outer edges, so we'll tap on our adjustments when we're done at 100%. We're going to go ahead and go to our layer. Now earlier on where we blurred out the background, this bottom one here, we're going to tap on it, we're going to tap on it, and we're going to select it. It's really important that color fill is grayed out down here. Your layers, go back to that blue layer that's got the glow on and tap on it and add a mask. So it's using the selection of that layer to create a mask that fits that shape. If we tap on our selection tool and tap away, you should now have this little blue glow around the edge of your tree there. And if we go ahead and we pinch with two fingers and we go full screen with 4, we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, make sure to subscribe for weekly Procreate tutorials. And if you want even more tutorials from me, you can come and join me over on Patreon, where I've been posting exclusive tutorials every single month to my Patreon supporters, and the catalogue sits at over 100 Patreon exclusive tutorials. And I add 3 every single month to the catalogue, so it just continues to grow. You can have your name featured in videos, sneak peeks, early access, and much, much more. So hit the link in the description down below and come and show your support. And if you like this video here on YouTube, you'll love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.